So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clarice Charlie-Hubbard, and I am Western Shoshone. I'm a member of the Battle Mountain Band of Timok Tribes, which is located in Battle Mountain, Nevada, which is more on the eastern side of Nevada. It's been an honor to be a part of this conference. It's my first one in a long time. So, it's grown so much and it's improved a lot. And I've learned a lot this past couple days. And one of the things that I enjoy about coming to these conferences full of Native women is that there's so much inspirational storytelling. We learn from each other, and I didn't know what I was walking into today, and I was inspired by my fellow colleagues and friends to come up and share a little bit about my story and a little bit about myself. So, and after thinking about it, I'm not comfortable in front of cameras being recorded live, but they asked, like, well, what am I passionate about? What is the message that I want to share? And that is that as a Native American woman, we have so many power. We have power within ourselves. And my story stems from being a victim of domestic violence as a child. And my mom and I were victims of physical abuse, emotional abuse, and we lived in fear for many years. The earliest memory that I have, I was 3 years old and I was hiding in a closet with my mom. She was pregnant with my brother at the time, and we were hiding from my stepdad, who was causing a lot of chaos in our family at that time. But that's my earliest memory, and I really don't even know if she knows that. We don't talk about it that much, but I was raised by my grandparents, and I am very fortunate and blessed just to have my grandma with me today. I'm very close to her. She's getting older in age, which is very difficult for me. But I'm blessed, and I'm grateful for every day that I have her. So going back to my story, when I was 13 years old, there was a domestic violence program that came to my school, my elementary school, and they did the CAP presentation, which is the Child Assault Prevention Program. And they were talking about domestic violence, and they were talking about being safe, strong, and free. And they were advocating and promoting their domestic violence shelter. And I took their number, and I went home, and I said, Mom, we can go to the shelter. And you know, it just wasn't an option. We lived on the Paiute Reservation in Big Pine, California, and that's where we lived, and we spent 13 years of my life there. Nobody knew what was going on in our home. Everybody thought we were a perfect family, and that my dad was a hard worker, and we had horses. We had a lot. And so nobody really knew what was going on. So to make a really long story short, when I was 13 years old, I basically made my mom leave. And we took my sisters, my little sister and my little brother, and we packed up our car, and we called that lady. I called the 800 number, and I told them what was going on, and that we were afraid and we were scared. And can you please help my mom? So they finally, well, you need to put your mom on the phone. So I put my mom on the phone, and they were able to convince her, like, let's leave. So we did. As a result of that, they met us in town, and they put us in a hotel for a few days until they were able to serve him with a restraining order. And in California at that time, it was a 3-year restraining order. Well, what my mom went through during that time was a lot of victim blaming, because shortly after he was served with a restraining order, he had a shootout at our home, and he was shot by our local police, and the SWAT team and everybody came in. It was a small town scene, and he was hospitalized, and then he was taken he was incarcerated, and he was sent to prison for 4 years, which was our break. It was our chance to escape and to get away, and we did, and we left our home. We lived in a shelter for about a year. And my mom became a single parent and only had one income. So with that, it was just a very difficult time in all of our lives. And but again, like I said, it gave us an opportunity to become free and to be safe and to not have to live in a violent home. So when that happened, I got a job, 14 years old, got a job. My first job was at Taco Bell. I knew I wanted to make money, and I knew my mom couldn't afford the things that I really wanted in life. And then finished school. I wasn't a very good student in school, new school. I wasn't liked. A lot of the Native girls did not like me. I didn't fit in. I was never really accepted by the other Native girls in the community, even though I was Native. They were mean and bullied, and I was beaten up. So they really hated on me and made my life not so fun at that time. But in high school, you know, you get better. You learn, you get better. I wasn't a very good student, but eventually I got it together my junior year in high school and started pulling A's and B's, and I graduated with a small scholarship. I knew once I turned 18, I wanted to move away and go to college, and that's exactly what I did. So I moved away, went to college, and where my life has taken me now, and the point I want to make about sharing my story is I knew I wanted an education. I knew I wanted better for myself. And I knew someday, if I ever had a family of my own, that I would make it right for them. And I wouldn't raise them the way that I was raised. And there would be no violence in our home. There would be balance and equality. And I was 26 years old when I had my first daughter. And then a couple years later, I left her father. He was a great man, great father, but he was an alcoholic. He had issues with alcoholism. He was never mean, never violent, very funny, very athletic, supportive, loving, but he just could not shake that disease. And we went our own ways, and I eventually met my husband now, and we have 2 girls, so now we have 3 girls. He's an amazing man. I'm very blessed to have him in my life. He comes from a very strong family full of values and culture. And like I said, we're doing well. We raise our family with our strong values and with culture, and we promote a healthy lifestyle for them. And we're giving them a life that both him and I never had, because it was a promise of how I grew up, that I would never let anybody harm me the way I was harmed as a child. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in social work in my early 30s. It took me a while, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do right out of high school. Who is? And you go on this path and you think you want to do something, and then you find out what your heart is really meant to do. And all my life I've been helping people. I've been helping others. I empathized at a really young age when, some of my friends were being teased and bullied about being chubby or about being overweight. I was the one coming home crying to my mom, telling them. And I didn't know what empathy was at that age. I just knew that it hurt my feelings that somebody else was hurting. So yes, I became a social worker. I've been in this field for 20 years. I started out as a volunteer with the same organization that helped my family become safe. and that was the Wild Iris Family Services Program in Bishop. And I became a volunteer with them doing the child assault prevention program and the teen dating violence prevention program when I was 20. So yes, 20 years, I'm now 40. I've learned a lot along the way. And I knew when I was younger in that field that I wanted to help Native people. I wanted to help Native women because I experienced a lot of what our Native communities go through. And what my overall message would be is, because we go through these trials and tributes in life, don't give up. Set some goals. Start out with small goals, 2-year goals, 5-year goals. Where do you want to be? You're in control. You have a lot more control in your life than you think. Find somebody that inspires you and run with that. Be positive, try to remain positive, and just really focus on what you want out of this life, because we only have one. And don't be afraid. That's another important message, is don't be afraid. Embrace change. And we're all resilient in one way or the other. We're all strong. We just need to find our strength, and that would be my overall message. And thank you for listening.